The moment the bakery fell silent, everyone knew something had gone terribly wrong. A black mother stood frozen at the counter, her 5-year-old daughter clinging to her leg, while a manager's voice cut through the room like a blade. "You think bringing a kid in here makes me feel sorry for you?" he said loudly, making sure every customer heard. No one moved, no one spoke, and that silence was louder than the insult itself. What no one realized was that sitting quietly in the corner with a cold cup of coffee was the one man who could destroy everything this manager believed he owned. He watched the humiliation, the shame, the way a child learned in real time what the world thought of her skin. And when the mother turned away, whispering an apology she never owed, that man made a decision. By the end of the day, lives would change, secrets would surface, and a simple request for expired cake would expose a truth far bigger than anyone expected. The bell above the door of Golden Hearth Bakery rang once, bright and sharp, the kind of sound that usually meant comfort. Warm bread, coffee, a place where people lingered because they felt welcome. Brielle Lawson stepped inside anyway, even though her body told her not to. She tightened her grip on her daughter's hand, as if holding on could keep the world from pushing back. Maisie was small for 5, her curls tucked under a faded pink hoodie that had once belonged to another child. Today was her birthday. Brielle had whispered that word to herself all morning like a prayer, hoping it might somehow make the day kinder. It hadn't. They hadn't eaten in 3 days. Not real food, just whatever Brielle could find after dark behind restaurants that locked their dumpsters. She hated herself for knowing which places were careless and which ones had cameras. Inside the bakery, everything smelled like another life. Butter and sugar, yeast and warmth. The smell wrapped around Brielle and made her chest ache. "Mom," Maisie whispered, tugging her sleeve. "Can I sit?" "Stay close, baby," Brielle murmured, forcing a smile she didn't feel. "Just stay right here." There were 6 people in line ahead of them, all white, all clean, all relaxed in the way people are when hunger has never shaped their decisions. Brielle felt eyes slide toward her, pause, then move away too quickly. She knew that look. She'd seen it her whole life. The look that decided who belonged and who didn't before a single word was spoken. Her reflection stared back from the glass case. Tangled hair, a coat too thin for March, dark circles carved deep under tired eyes. A black woman holding a black child in a place that sold celebration by the slice. She already knew how this would end, but she stepped forward anyway. When it was finally her turn, Trent Barlow leaned over the counter. Late 30s, neatly pressed shirt, hair styled to look effortless, but wasn't. His smile sat on his mouth without ever reaching his eyes. "What do you want?" he asked. Not, "Can I help you?" Not, "Good morning, what do you want?" Brielle swallowed. "Hi, I was wondering if you have any cake that's expired. Or maybe something that's going to be thrown out today." Trent blinked, then laughed under his breath like he'd just heard a joke. "Expired cake," Wandy repeated. "Yes, sir," Brielle said quietly. "Anything that was getting to be discarded." Maisie pressed closer to her leg. "And why would I do that?" Trent asked. Brielle's fingers tightened. "It's my daughter's birthday," she said, nodding toward Maisie. "She's 5. I just wanted a small piece. It doesn't have to be fresh." The bakery grew still. Conversations dipped. Someone behind them shifted uncomfortably. Trent glanced at Maisie, then back at Brielle. His mouth curled. "So let me get this straight," he said, raising his voice just enough for the people nearby to hear. "You're asking for free cake." "No," Brielle said quickly. "I'm asking for something you were going to throw away anyway. I know bakeries toss food every day." He leaned back and crossed his arms. "And you know that how?" Brielle hesitated. "Because I've been hungry. Because I've watched dumpsters. Because I've learned what the world wastes." Instead, she said, "I've worked in food service before." Trent laughed, louder this time. "Sure you have." He turned his head toward the back. "Paige, come here." Paige Sullivan stepped out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She froze when she took in the scene. Her eyes flicked to Brielle, then to Maisie, then away again. "This woman wants free cake," Trent said. "Says it's her kid's birthday." Paige swallowed. "Trent." Brielle felt heat rise to her face. "Please," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I'm not asking for charity, just something that's being thrown out." Trent leaned forward, lowering his voice into something sharp and cutting. Do you have any idea how many people come in here with a story like yours? It's not a story, Brielle said. Every single day, he continued, ignoring her. Different face, same hustle, and it's always the same type. The word hung in the air, ugly and unmistakable. Brielle felt Maisie's hand tremble. You think because you brought a kid in here, I'm supposed to feel bad? Trent said. That's manipulation. A woman near the register looked down at her phone. A man pretended to study the bread menu. No one spoke. I used to work, Brielle said, her voice breaking despite her effort. I lost everything. I didn't choose this. Trent shrugged. Funny how it's never your fault. Maisie's lip quivered. Mom, can we go? Brielle nodded immediately. I'm sorry, she said, though she wasn't sure why she was apologizing. She turned, pulling Maisie gently toward the door. Trent wasn't done. Just so you know, he called after them, loud enough to make sure everyone heard. We don't give out free food here, not even expired. If you want something, you work and you pay. That's how the world works. The bell rang again as they stepped back onto the sidewalk. The sound followed Brielle like an insult. Outside, the cold air hit her face. She crouched immediately, pulling Maisie into her arms. It's okay, Brielle whispered. It's okay. Maisie looked up at her, eyes glossy. There's no cake, right? Brielle closed her eyes. There will be, she lied softly. I promise. Across the bakery, a man with silver-streaked hair folded his newspaper slowly. Caleb Hartwell had been sitting in the corner the entire time, coffee untouched, jaw tight. He wore jeans and a plain jacket. Nothing about him suggested wealth. Nothing suggested power. But he had seen everything. The way Trent's voice changed. The way the room went silent. The way a black mother was turned into a lesson for everyone else. Caleb stood, left cash on the table, and walked out without a word. Outside, he watched Brielle and Maisie disappear down the block, shoulders hunched, moving with the careful pace of people who know they are always being watched. Something shifted in him then. Not pity, anger, the kind that doesn't fade. Caleb didn't confront Trent. Not yet. He had built Hartwell bread coming from a borrowed oven and a second chance. He knew rage made noise, but action made change. He followed them at a distance. 20 minutes later, the streets changed. Tourists disappeared. Storefronts closed. Under the I-24 overpass, Brielle ducked through a broken fence and disappeared. Caleb stopped. Under concrete and shadow, he saw it. Cardboard walls, a torn tarp, two thin blankets, a home made of survival. He watched as Brielle handed Maisie a bruised apple like it was treasure. His chest tightened. That night, Caleb sat alone in his house. Lights off, city glowing through the windows. 5 years since his wife had died. 5 years of money, success, and silence. He picked up his phone. Nolan, he said when his assistant answered, I need you to find someone for me. Discreetly. Of course. Her name is Brielle Lawson. She has a 5-year-old daughter named Maisie. They're living under the I-24 overpass. I want to know how she ended up there. A pause. May I ask why? No, Caleb said. Just do it. He ended the call and stared into the dark. Tomorrow he would go back, and nothing about this story would stay small. What were you feeling when Brielle was humiliated in that bakery? Anger, sadness, or recognition? Caleb Hartwell didn't sleep that night. The image kept replaying in his mind. The way Brielle Lawson had stood there, shoulders squared, voice controlled, while a room full of strangers silently agreed she deserved to be humiliated. Not with words, with silence, with comfort, with the luxury of looking away. He had seen cruelty before. He had fired managers, settled lawsuits, rewritten policies. But this was different. This wasn't loud. It was casual, practiced. The kind of cruelty that wore a smile and called itself how the world works. By morning, he already knew one thing for certain. If he did nothing, he would be just another man who watched. Under the I-24 overpass, the city sounded different. Traffic roared above like a reminder of lives moving forward without them. Brielle sat on a flattened piece of cardboard, pulling Maisie close as the wind cut through the gaps in the tarp. Mom, Maisie whispered, her voice thin. Are we in trouble? Brielle brushed her daughter's curls back gently. No, baby, why would you think that? Because that man was yelling, and everyone looked at us. Brielle's jaw tightened. She hated how early her daughter was learning these lessons. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to be kind, she said. But that's not your fault. Ever. Maisie nodded, though her eyes still searched Brielle's face for certainty. A few blocks away, Caleb sat in his car, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel. He hadn't planned to come back so soon, but something in his chest wouldn't let him stay away. He watched from a distance as Brielle carefully rationed a bottle of water, counting each sip like it mattered. It did. His phone buzzed. Nolan, Caleb said quietly. I found her, Nolan Pierce replied. His tone had changed. Less professional, more human. And it's worse than we thought. Caleb closed his eyes. Tell me. Brielle Lawson is 39. She worked retail, then front desk at a small hotel. No criminal record, no drugs, no theft, nothing. She was married to Wade Lawson. Caleb felt his fingers curl. There are hospital reports, Nolan continued. 3 ER visits in 18 months, concussions, broken ribs. Bruising that doctors noted it as consistent with repeated assault. She filed a report once, dropped it 3 days later. Why? Caleb asked, though he already suspected the answer. Because Wade threatened to kill her daughter if she followed through, Nolan said. There's a witness statement from a neighbor. Police couldn't act without her cooperation. Caleb exhaled slowly. And the documents? Gone. She fled one night with Maisie and never came back. No ID, no birth certificate for the child. Without paperwork, she can't get housing, work, or benefits. She tried shelters, was turned away twice. Why? One was full, the other said she didn't fit the criteria. Nolan hesitated. Unofficially, she was told she might attract trouble. Caleb's stomach twisted. Because she's black. Nolan didn't deny it. Because she's black, homeless, and came with a child. Silence hung between them. And Wade? Caleb asked. He still lives in the same apartment, works private security, carries a gun legally. Caleb stared at the overpass ahead, at the small shape of a child leaning into her mother. He can't get near them. I agree, Nolan said. But to do that right, we need lawyers, protective orders, documents. It won't be quick. It needs to be, Caleb said. I'll make calls. Caleb ended the call and sat there longer, watching the city pretend not to notice the people living beneath it. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He stepped out of his car and walked toward them. Brielle saw him first. Her body reacted before her mind could. She stood immediately, pulling Maisie behind her. Please, she said, voice firm but shaking. We're not bothering anyone. Caleb stopped several feet away and raised his hands. I'm not here to hurt you. Maisie peeked around Brielle's leg. It's the man from the bakery, she whispered. Brielle's heart dropped. Why did you follow us? Because I needed to know, Caleb said honestly. And because what happened in there wasn't right. Brielle crossed her arms, anger breaking through fear. People say that all the time. Then they walk away. I didn't, Caleb said. I came back. Silence stretched. Brielle studied him carefully. White, clean, calm. The kind of man who always had options. What do you want? She asked. To help, he said. She laughed, short and bitter. Help how? With pity? No, Caleb said quietly. With solutions. Brielle shook her head. Nobody helps for free. I know, he said. And I'm not asking you to trust me right now. Good, she replied. Because I don't. Caleb nodded. Fair. Sirens wailed in the distance. Maisie flinched and grabbed Brielle's coat. Mom, she whispered. The police. Brielle's face went pale. They're not coming here, Caleb said quickly. I promise. You don't know that, Brielle snapped. You don't know what happens when someone calls them on people like us. Caleb swallowed. He did know, not from experience, but from ignorance he'd never had to confront before. I won't call anyone, he said, and neither will I let anyone else. Brielle stared at him, searching for a lie. Why do you care? Caleb hesitated. Because I watched a room full of people decide you weren't worth defending. And I realized I've benefited my whole life from that same silence. Her breath caught. I own that bakery, he said softly. Brielle stiffened. You what? Golden Hearth and the others. All of them. Anger surged through her. So this is guilt. You watched your employee humiliate my child and now you want to feel better. Caleb didn't flinch. No, I want to take responsibility. She laughed again, tears spilling now. Responsibility doesn't feed her. It doesn't keep her safe. You're right, he said. That's why words aren't enough. He reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a folded paper. This is the address of a temporary apartment. Safe area, 2 bedrooms. It's yours if you want it. Brielle didn't take it. There's also a lawyer waiting to help you file a protective order, Caleb continued, and a caseworker to recover your documents. No cameras, no publicity, no conditions. Why? Brielle demanded, Caleb's voice lowered. Because your daughter shouldn't grow up believing that humiliation is normal. And because I can't unsee what I saw. Maisie tugged Brielle's hand. Mom, I'm tired. Brielle looked down at her child, the bruised apple, the cold nights, the constant fear. Then she looked back at Caleb. If this is a trick, it's not, he said. And if you say no, I'll walk away and never come back. Brielle closed her eyes. For one long moment, she stood between terror and hope. Okay, she whispered, but we do this my way. No photos, no savior stories. Caleb nodded. Your way. Across town, Trent Barlow laughed with the coworker, unaware that the ground beneath him had already begun to shift. He didn't know yet that cameras existed. He didn't know that silence had witnesses. And he definitely didn't know that the woman he dismissed as nothing had become the center of everything. This was no longer about cake, it was about dignity, and it was just getting started. The apartment was quiet in a way Brielle Lawson wasn't used to. Not the hollow quiet under the overpass, where every sound meant danger. This was different. This was the kind of quiet that felt like a breath finally being released. Maisie ran from room to room, her socks sliding on the clean floor, her laughter bouncing off walls that were solid and warm. She stopped in the doorway of the smaller bedroom and gasped. Mom, she whispered, eyes wide, this is mine? Brielle nodded slowly, afraid that if she spoke too loudly, the moment might shatter. Yes, baby, that's your room. A real bed, a window that locked, a door that closed. Brielle pressed her hand to her chest and turned away before Maisie could see the tears. For the first time in months, she slept that night without waking at every sound, without counting footsteps, without clutching fear like a shield. The next days moved fast. Lawyers, paperwork, meetings that made her head spin. Caleb Hartwell never hovered, never rushed her, never spoke over her. He showed up when he said he would, then stepped back. When Brielle flinched at sudden noises, he noticed. When she hesitated, he waited. The protective order was filed. Wade Lawson was served. The judge's voice was firm and final. 500 feet. No contact. One violation meant jail. Brielle felt her knees weaken as the words sank in. Freedom didn't come as fireworks. It came as quiet relief and trembling hands. Maisie started school a week later. On her first morning, she stood at the door with her backpack clutched tight, eyes bright and scared all at once. Brielle knelt and adjusted the straps. You remember what we talked about? Brielle asked. Maisie nodded. If someone's mean, I tell you, and my teacher. And you remember this, Brielle added softly. You belong in every room you walk into. Maisie smiled and hugged her hard. I know, Mom. While Brielle rebuilt her life, Caleb prepared to face his past. He returned to Golden Hearth Bakery on a Tuesday morning when the line was long and the room was full. He didn't announce himself. He stood near the counter and watched. Trent Barlow was exactly the same. Same posture, same sharp tone, same small power exercised like a weapon. An older man approached the counter, hat in his hands. Do you have any bread you were going to throw away? He asked quietly. Trent sighed loud and dramatic. We've been over this. We don't give handouts. The man lowered his head. Caleb stepped forward. I'll take 2 baskets, he said calmly. Trent glanced at him, annoyed. That'll be, I know, Caleb said, placing cash on the counter. One for me, one for him. The older man stared at the basket in disbelief. Thank you, he whispered. Caleb nodded. Take care. When the man left, Caleb didn't move. Trent crossed his arms. You again. Yes, Caleb said. Me again. Trent smirked. What now? You gonna lecture me? No, Caleb replied. I'm going to show you something. He lifted his phone and placed it on the counter. The screen lit up. Video footage. The bakery. The counter. Brielle's voice controlled but trembling. Maisie hiding behind her. Trent's laughter. His words. Clear, undeniable. The room went silent. Trent's face drained of color. You can't. I can, Caleb said. And I did. Customers leaned in. Paige Sullivan stood frozen behind the register, her hand covering her mouth. You humiliated a black mother and her child, Caleb continued, voice steady. You used this space to remind her she didn't belong. You thought no one important was watching. Trent swallowed hard. She was trying to get free food. Caleb shook his head. She was trying to protect her daughter's dignity, something you failed to understand. Trent laughed nervously. You don't own this place. Caleb met his eyes. I do. The words landed heavy. I'm Caleb Hartwell, he said, owner of Hartwell Bread Company. The silence was absolute. You're fired, Caleb said, effective immediately, for cause. Trent opened his mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left to say. Caleb turned to the room. From today on, any food that would be discarded will be donated. No questions, no humiliation, no exceptions. He looked at Paige. You're the new manager. Paige's eyes filled with tears. I won't let you down. I know, Caleb said. That afternoon, Caleb stood outside the elementary school as Maisie burst through the doors, her backpack bouncing, her smile brighter than the sun. Mr. Caleb, she called, running toward him. Brielle followed, watching her daughter with a softness that felt new. They walked to a small park nearby, the same park where weeks earlier, Brielle had sung a birthday song without cake, without hope. Maisie climbed the jungle gym, laughing as if she'd always known how. Brielle sat on the bench, hands folded. I still don't know how to thank you. Caleb shook his head. You already did. You trusted me. Brielle looked at him. You didn't save us. Caleb waited. You stood with us, she finished. There's a difference. He smiled quietly. 6 months later, Brielle stood behind the front desk at Hartwell Bread Company's headquarters, her posture straight, her voice confident. She had a job, benefits, a future that didn't depend on fear. Maisie had friends, a favorite teacher, a life that didn't require hiding. One evening, they celebrated Maisie's 6th birthday. There was a cake, candles, laughter. Make a wish, Brielle said. Maisie closed her eyes tight, then blew out the candles in one big breath. What did you wish for? Caleb asked. Maisie grinned. That nobody ever gets treated like they're invisible again. Brielle reached for Caleb's hand, not in desperation, but in gratitude. They had become a family not by blood, but by choice. Because someone decided silence was no longer acceptable. Because dignity was not negotiable. Because seeing someone fully can change everything. If this story moved you, how did it make you feel? Angry, hopeful, or reflective? What part of this story stayed with you the most? If you believe stories like this matter, comment, agree below. Tell us which country you're watching from, and please share this video so more people can choose empathy over silence.